Hello everyone, my name is Grega Horvat and welcome to a new week ahead video in which I will walk you through several different FX pairs and also look at very important correlated markets such as gold, crude oil, S&P 500, and even we will take a look at Bitcoin. So what is going on euro dollar? Well, I still think that euro dollar is in downtrend from 2008 highs and that another leg fifth wave down can be coming to complete this ending diagonal for wave C. So if that's the case, then this was a flat correction. It's a 3-3-5 pattern, which means 3 legs for a wave A, 3 wave drop for a wave B, and this was a sharp rise for a wave C. So with that being said, I think that we are turning bearish, especially if you consider that this leg down was already made by 5 waves. It can be counted by 5 waves, which means that after a pullback, we will be looking to the downside. Even if you think that this will be only wave A, this was wave B, and we will see a wave C drop, which would actually be part of a bullish count, it still means that there is room for more downside. So for the next few months, I think that this pattern, that this drop will unfold, okay, maybe even by the end of 2018. So for now I am bearish on the euro dollar, but as always pullbacks will occur. So I'm tracking this pullback at the moment, which can be wave 4 or maybe even wave 2 of a higher degree, if we consider that this can be completed wave 1 after all. But it's the same thing, wave 2, wave 4, both are corrective waves, and ideally we will see a test of this trend line from the outside after a 3-wave rally, which means a reversal to the downside could occur maybe in the second part of September. So for now, euro dollar is in a corrective rise, and I think that actually this can be some short-term opportunities for euro dollar longs, because first leg here, as you can see, unfolded in 5 waves. 5 waves, it means that market has changed from temporary bearish to temporary bullish mode. So this is first leg of that corrective 3-wave bounce for wave 4 or wave 2, as I said on the daily chart, which means that I'm tracking now only a temporary pullback, ideally into this yellow box, from where I will be expecting another wave C rise. So this wave C could actually be very interesting, at least for myself, okay? Also, what I'm looking at here, just let me find this, potential head and shoulders pattern, okay? This can be left shoulder, head, and now maybe we are in a right shoulder. So actually this could take us back to 118 level, and also this is very similar levels to this resistance that I'm seeing here for wave 4 or wave 2. On a weekly, this technical chart, what is also interesting is this reversal candlestick formation, which actually occurred at this 200 and 100 moving average here on the weekly chart. So ideally we are now underway with 3 legs up into this 50-100 moving average on a weekly. Okay, so ideally this market once again will stop around this 1.18, maybe even higher, at even higher prices before we see a drop. So for now, as I said, euro dollar is in a corrective recovery, but is part of this downtrend, which I suspect it will continue as long as the market is trading below these highs of 2018. Now let's take a look on cable. Now on cable, we have seen a very strong reversal to the downside, as you know, below this trendline support. So for me, this market is in a bearish mode, which I believe will continue to even lower prices after a pullback. Now I will be tracking ABC rise, which can be actually measured from that low, can be another 600 or maybe even 700 pips bounce. Why? Because I was looking back at these previous cycles with an uptrend, and you will see that actually this was a range that market normally made when a pullback occurred, 600 to 700 pips. So I would not be surprised to see another such move, because after all, market has very important, each market has its own very important personalities. So maybe that's the case for cable here. So I'm expecting a reversal back to this area and then a reversal to the downside. However, corrections can be very tricky, so I don't see an impulsive rise just yet, so we will have to consider maybe even something more complex here, but still corrective before we see even lower prices. On this weekly candlestick formation, you can see here that 200 period moving average was actually holding as a resistance, we have seen a break below 50 period, so ideally we will see a retest of that one and then continuation to the downside, while the RSI maybe could stop above 50 and below 60 line. Okay, now let's take a look at Ozzy. Now on Ozzy, firstly monthly chart, it's a very clear pattern to me. You can see a downtrend in progress, and recently it looks like that we have seen a break below this trend line support, so I'm expecting definitely more weakness, especially because this rise, so showing the next chart, has unfolded in a corrective manner. So based on this, I'm expecting further weakness here. However, nothing moves in straight line, so maybe this first leg to the downside could now see a bounce and then continuation to the downside to even lower prices into this zone for a fifth wave of decline. Why? Because daily just adjusted the wave count slightly, and what I can see is that actually this 5-wave cycle could come to an end, because we have here quite strong divergence, while we can see a wedge pattern here on the price. So to me, despite falling prices, I can see some overlaps here. It tells me that based on RSI and based on price itself, it tells me that market or the bearish momentum is not that strong anymore, and that actually this could be an ending diagonal formation. Ending diagonal, as you know, is a reversal pattern. It occurs in a fifth wave position before market turns in the opposite direction by minimum 3 waves. So ideally, we will see a bottom maybe in at the start of September, and then we start to roll higher here for a 3-wave rally back to this zone before we may see a new sell-off later 2018. Okay, now let's take a look also on Dollar-cad. Now Dollar-cad is clearly here bullish because of this 3-wave setback and rise above this channel. However, we are now coming back to this channel after this leading diagonal here, this first leg. So I believe this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a wave 1, and now we have seen a wave 2. Actually, I'm tracking the idea that maybe wave 2 is already finished. Of course, there is possibility that this is still only wave 8 and that we will see deeper prices. But what I really like about Dollar-cad for the next week is that in both cases we will see maybe a rise towards this bullish level by minimum 3 legs. Okay, this will occur in 5 waves. Then of course we will go even higher. But what I like is that this bounce from here is looking very aggressive and quite impulsive. However, we are still below this upper trendline resistance, but could be very interesting if market will be managed to break above this trendline resistance and then we see a pullback. In such case, I would be tracking this wave 2 or wave B, as I said, because we don't know if this market will rally in 3 waves or in 5 waves. But in both cases, I think that this corrective setback could then be very interesting to catch some pips on the long side, either for wave 3 or wave C. Okay, so the idea is here to watch out this trend line, expecting a breakout and then a pullback, and let's see what happens. Also, and now when I talked about Dollar-cad, it can be maybe the right time to look at crude oil, because as you know, if maybe Dollar-cad is headed to the upside, then maybe crude oil should really be headed to the downside. Okay, to confirm one market or one count for the other market. So actually, if I want to see a continuation higher on Dollar-cad, I want to see crude oil coming to the downside. And what is really interesting on crude oil actually is that I see a 5-wave rise here from the lows. It can be actually a flat correction here for a wave B, but even if it's bullish count like here for wave 1 and we will see a pullback for wave 2 and then higher prices, it's also very important to know that even this bullish count has room, or it should make a pullback maybe towards 67, maybe 68 area. So that's once we see this leg to the downside, either in impulsive fashion or in 3 waves, that's when Dollar-cad may see even more support. Okay, but generally speaking, on this crude oil, what I'm tracking is corrective decline. As I said, it could continue lower into wave C, but if market will just continue sideways after this next lower prices, then maybe this can even be a running triangle here for wave 4. But in either case, as you can see, I'm expecting here either maybe even wave E of a triangle, maybe even wave 2 based on this very aggressive bullish call, or maybe even wave C. So in both cases, I think the Dollar-cad is approaching resistance and it will come a little bit lower, which could, on the other hand, support our Dollar-cad that can break then that downtrend channel that we were tracking. And in such case, of course, I would be very, very interested to look for opportunities to the upside. Okay. Now let's take a look also on Dollar Swiss. Dollar Swiss made here a 3-wave setback from 2016 highs. Then it moved above this trendline resistance, and looks like that we are coming now back into this channel. So after all, that's still a 3-wave decline from the high. So it can be wave 2 that is moving nicely into 1561.8% retracement. But me as a trader, it's very important to see this level hold. Okay, so I want to see market to confirm my wave count before I may look for, and I may say that wave 2 is finished and that we are going to the upside. Before I may look for any trading opportunity, I want to see a reversal from that identified potential support level, which is below this trend line. Probably very important is 61.8%. So what would I have to see for a bounce or for a potential long idea is that market reverses higher from these fib levels that I have shown here on the 4-hour chart, and I see an overlap with this bullish level. Why this overlap is important? Well, because let's say that we are in wave C, which can still reach lower prices, then this is wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and wave 5. And we know that wave 4 must not trade into territory of wave 1. So if we see an overlap with this bullish level, which means that wave 4 would trade into wave 1, then it would confirm that after all, market has bottomed here and that we are headed higher. So only then I would be interested to look maybe for dollar Swiss longs. But at the same time, I would have to see a 5-wave rise from that low and then buy a pullback. Okay, so it's very important, even if I make analysis, a bullish one, that I want to see this analysis as confirmed from the market before I may take a trigger. Okay, also it's very important to be patient when you're trading, because after all, look at this weekly candlestick formation. We have seen a very 2 bearish candlesticks. So ask yourself, would you buy here at these prices after this such drop, or would you rather wait on a rise first? Let's say that this red candle gets erased next week and then buy a pullback. I think this would definitely be much more safer trade to the upside. Now let's take a look on dollar yen. Now dollar yen is trading in a big consolidation, which I think can be a triangle. Market failed once more here at this very nice trend line resistance, this pattern. So based on old school technique, if market is limited at the upper side of the range, if you recognize a failure breakout, then of course you can expect that market will turn to the lower side of the range, which is here. Okay, so then you will see prices lower into wave E, and wave E should also be made by 3 waves in corrective manner, like each leg within a triangle. So I'll label this first as a leading diagonal for wave A, wave B, and I will be expecting drop for wave C. So that's leading diagonal. It's even better shown here on a 4-hour chart. You can see waves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this first leg was made clearly by 5 subwaves, so it's a wave A as part of still ongoing wave B, which could after all reach this 112 level, maybe even 78.6% retracement of this previous decline. Okay, because when you have a leading diagonal, okay, then prices, when correction occurs, then price can retrace back to the ending point or termination point of a wave 2, not to wave 4. But when you have an impulsive decline, okay, then you may see a retracement back to the area of a wave 4. But here in leading diagonal, I would expect a retracement back to the area of a wave 2, because clearly you can see that wave 4 levels were already reached here, and that happened by very strong impulsive reaction. So definitely this should be very important levels to watch. Now let's take a look also on gold. Now Gold, as you know, I'm tracking a triangle here, expecting a bounce. Also here on a daily chart, we've seen very aggressive drop, to be honest, but still we are trading above this 2016 swing low. So since market made a failure break to the downside and reversed quite nicely here, I think that we are making a new corrective recovery. Ideally, this will be in 3 waves for wave E. Now, wave E sometimes can be very small, sometimes can be very big, and sometimes can reach the other side of the triangle. But since this market made quite extended and sharp legs here, okay, I would not be surprised if one of these legs would not be so sharp. Okay, so I'm considering that wave E could actually be much smaller. So the first resistance that I would watch is at 1235. Okay, that's a very interesting zone from where a new drop may occur if we see a 3-wave rally by that up into these levels. Also, when I'm tracking when I'm tracking on primary account, I want to look for different ideas and be aware of some alternate scenarios. But what is really nice about this one is that actually different scenario on bearish one on gold could actually be still bearish, okay? Because this could be wave 1, this could be wave 2, now we could be wave 3, and this coming bounce could be wave 4. So with this alternate scenario, you would maybe look at 38.2%, which, look, it comes right at this resistance that I also highlight as a very important level for wave E. Okay, so this could be very, very nice. Even if you're tracking different waveforms and not a triangle, I think that this or that you should be aware of potential reversal to the downside after a 3-wave recovery. Okay. Also, I'm looking here at the gold 4-hour chart. What I see is a 5-wave recovery here, and now we are in a 3-wave setback. However, maybe some would say that this was only a 3-wave recovery, but sometimes I have with a line chart. So if you switch to a line chart, you can see a nice clear 5-wave rise here. Also, it was out of this downtrend channel, so clearly my market, it seems that it wants to turn to the bullish side, at least for a 3-wave rise. So I'm tracking now wave C, and then we'll look for higher prices once wave C of B is finished. Okay. Now let's take a look also on the next market, which will be the S&P 500. Now the S&P 500 surprised me to be honest. It reached much higher prices, new all-time highs earlier than I thought. So obviously I had to adjust the wave count, and based on this recent price action, I'm actually very satisfied to find the solutions, because again I have 2 different wave counts and both suggest that we may see higher prices. So before we go to daily counts, some alternate scenarios I'll show you there, I want to look at this monthly chart where I'm tracking this impulsive rise, which should continue after wave 4. Now the question is if this wave 4 is maybe already unfolding as a flat formation, or are we still in a wave 3? But in either case, I think that there is more upside coming. So the first chart suggests that we are now making a 3-wave rise here for wave B of that wave 4, which means a drop will occur, but only a drop will occur when market completes a 5-wave rise from this point, because I'm tracking wave C, and wave C should be made by 5 waves. This is wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 underway, expecting wave 4 pullback, maybe back to retest this old high, and then bounce higher for wave 5. And then maybe we may see a reversal to the downside. At the same time, this invalidation level should be very important, because if we drop below that level, then obviously this would be confirmation after all that market is already underway into wave C of this wave 4. So this is actually, let's say by the end of 2018, we should see a reversal to the downside. Okay, but for the next few weeks, this market still remains bullish, even with this bearish interpretation for wave 4. Well, here I have a bullish interpretation, immediate price to continue into wave 5 of 3, which suggests also that more upside should be coming after a pullback. This one has room even towards 3050 or so. So even this one suggests obviously that we are in an uptrend. So both counts, different interpretation, the longer term, suggests that we will see more upside on stocks. Okay, so this one is actually on my other screen. Especially this wave 4 should be interesting if market remains trading above this invalidation level. Now also DAX is very interesting for the short term. Now I'm tracking here on the monthly potential triangle, which means I'm expecting a break to a new high. Now on a daily chart, we have seen a retest of these lows. So for now I'm bullish and expecting a rise towards the upper side of the range. So even if I again consider some different scenarios like a triangle for wave B, which means a drop lower, it's still price could still reach higher prices here. Okay, based on minimum expectations, I see room for a move towards 12,800 or so. And especially if we consider that this rise, okay, from that support was actually made by 5 waves. Okay, and now we are correcting already with overlapping price action. You can see here on hourly chart even better. We are right at the support. So next week, I think it could be very interesting bounce coming, while the market should remain trading above this August lows. Okay, so even if we consider again different interpretation, even if this will not be wave 3 to the upside, but maybe only wave C, okay, there is still room for prices to retrace back to these levels or even higher. Okay, there's also a gap here, as you can see, from start of August, so even this will very rarely stay unfilled. Okay, so that's another reason why I'm looking higher here. Now let's take a look on Euro pound. Now Euro pound has really not been doing anything interesting over the last few months, but maybe we finally have something to work with. As you can see, market recovered very slowly, overlapping here price recovery, but it stopped at this equality level of second zigzag compared to the first zigzag. So since we have seen market reversing very aggressively to the downside last week, I think that there is more weakness coming. Now we are testing this trendline support, which I believe will be broken soon, either still within this first leg, or if I try to draw this trend line like this. Okay, so either we see a decisive break now and then I will watch a pullback for wave 2 or wave B, or we will see a bounce already now back to this resistance and then we see a break to the downside into wave 3 or wave C. So in either case, I think that Europe could see much more lower prices while the market is trading below these highs, because clearly this has unfolded in impulsive maneuver, so I'm expecting more weakness. However, this weakness will be seen as a wave E of this triangle that I'm tracking here on a weekly chart. Okay, so there is room for market to retest this lower trendline support. Now let's take a look on the next one, which will actually be pound yen. Now pound has made a very aggressive bounce last week, so pound yen can be very interesting, especially if we consider that dollar yen has is turned to the upside by 5 waves on the 4-hour chart that I showed you earlier, and also cable. We said that there is room for 600, maybe 700 pips rally from these August levels. So actually, maybe this pound yen could be very interesting, especially if we consider that market rallied by 5 waves here. Okay, so we are now in a 3-wave pullback, and ideally this is wave B, only temporary downward correction within this trend that will ideally continue into wave C, even possibly even back to this former wave 4 here. Okay, now if we take a look on the daily chart, you can see potentially completing leading diagonal, and I would be looking for minimum expectation prices to retrace back into this wave 4. Okay, so pound yen is definitely very, very interesting for more upside, and as I said, the most important is this structure, 5-wave recovery. Now let's take a look also on the next one, which will be dollar against Mexican peso. So this one has quite clear structure here on a weekly chart, but still it's a bullish trend. Okay, and we are observing only corrective pullback. So this was wave 2, then we have seen a wave 3, and now I'm tracking wave 4. Now wave 4 should be made by 3 legs, and this corrective decline, this zigzag, is still incomplete. This was on the first wave A, then we have seen a very nice 3-wave rally. So wave B is finished because we have seen an impulsive sell-off on the lower time frame charts, which means I'm expecting more downside. So if we take a look on daily, here's this no, actually 4 hour. Here is this 5-wave decline, okay, and now we are tracking a 3-wave recovery, and 3-wave recovery is still not finished. Why? Because this was wave A, wave B was completed, and wave C is underway. It should reach higher prices, which means you would expect break above this wave A swing highs, and this is still not the case. Actually, this on the 4-hour chart looks like a very nice completed ABC decline here for this wave B, so I'm expecting more upside into wave C towards this equality measurement targets, okay, around 19.50 or so. So I'm expecting more upside on dollar Mexican peso, but after this wave C, be aware of a new reversal to the downside, ideally very aggressive one, because we could be after all already in this wave C, okay. And also the final market today will be Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin, really still nothing interesting on the cryptocurrencies in general, but we are still observing and tracking this wave B, which may not be over yet. Ideally, I would love to see a retracement back into this consolidation from a year back, because actually this occurred in September. So maybe this will coming very soon, or at least by the end of 2018, and then we see a bounce. So what I'm tracking actually, it's here potential ending diagonal here in wave C. Now ending diagonal is a 5-wave pattern with a red shape, and you can see we are bearish then as long as we are trading below this upper trend line. And also what is probably the most important is that market is here rised by 3 waves, and it still didn't manage to break below this previous swing low, which should be happening actually, because when you're tracking a corrective recovery that is completed, you should see this correction fully retraced. So I'm expecting still another leg to the downside. Also in ending diagonal, each leg should be made by 3 waves. So ideally this is actually wave A, wave B, and expecting moves lower into wave C. As I said, as long as the market is trading below this level, but probably the most important is below this red trend line. On a 4-hour chart, also recovery is not looking any aggressive or impulsive. If you look at this price action, okay, and maybe compare it to the previous decline, you can clearly see that the previous decline was much sharper, okay. So what I'm thinking is that this is only a corrective pause. Also, market is moving now right into this potential trend line resistance connected from the lows and this wave B swing high. So we are now testing this level. So it will be very interesting and probably the most important time next week if we either see continuation aggressive one to the downside, or we will just stay sideways. So for me, Bitcoin is still not bullish, but as I said, it can be very interesting if we see a completion of this ending diagonal and then a reversal to the upside by the end of 2018. This could be then again, at least for the short term, very nice opportunity, okay? Because ending diagonals are, after all, reversal patterns will normally they cause a very aggressive turn, okay? Thank you very much for your attention. Hope that you enjoyed this video. Bye.